Oh, okay. Oh, great, thanks.
Before we get started, as always, please raise your hand. We'll bring the microphone to you.
Ready, Dave? Great. Good evening. Thank you all for coming on such short notice. A little while ago, I met with Mark and informed him that after much thought and careful consideration, I've decided to change leadership in our football program. Mark's a quality person, and he handled that difficult decision with the same class, professionalism, and character that we've come to know since he returned to Eugene in 2009. I understand that the past 72 hours have been difficult for Mark, for our coaches, for our student athletes and fans, but I have a responsibility to be thorough, to make the best decision possible after taking into account all factors and reviewing the season. Making a head coaching change in any sport is one of the most difficult tasks for an athletic director. You're impacting the lives of the coach, the staff, and the student athletes. Yet as difficult as these transitions can be, I have an obligation to this great university and to our student athletes to put them in the best position to achieve success. That means competing for championships, earning their degrees, and having a positive student athlete experience. When I announced in 2013 that Mark would take the reins of our program, I did so with the utmost confidence in his abilities as a coach, as a teacher, and as a role model. Mark won 37 games in 4 seasons as our head coach, including a Pac-12 championship and an appearance in the inaugural college football playoff championship game, a memory that will live with Ducks forever. No one wanted Mark to be more successful at Oregon more than me. Yet over the past several months, I've grown concerned with the direction of the program. We were not competitive in a number of games, and we were on a poor trajectory. On behalf of the university community, I want to thank Mark for his service, and we wish him and his family nothing but the best. I met with our student athletes a few minutes ago and informed them of this decision and promised them our diligence in finding their next head coach. I also reminded them of their responsibilities as students and as athletes in the interim. So now we turn to identifying and securing the next head coach of Oregon football, and for the first time in decades, we'll seek a coach outside of our current staff. I'll not put a timeline on the search, though we'll work efficiently. We're a world-class institution with a phenomenal track record of success. We have an outstanding staff, state-of-the-art facilities, the best fans and generous donors, and we compete in the Conference of Champions. We can recruit the very best student athletes and ensure that they earn their degrees and achieve all their goals. I understand that this process will be the subject of much speculation and reporting, and I urge all Duck fans for their patience until we have official announcements. Again, I want to thank Mark for his service to Oregon, and I'm happy to take questions.
Rob, beyond win-loss record, were there things that you were concerned about that led to this change, and what was the reaction in the team meeting?
Obviously, when you make a change like this after considerable thought, it's never just one thing. You look at the totality of the program. So it's both what happens on the field and off the field. Those meetings are always difficult. They're highly emotional. When you're that close and you're a team, it's a family. And it was difficult. Players were upset because they lost a family member.
How much did you and Mark communicate during the season, and did that taper off at all during the month of November?
I as much as my schedule allows, I try to be at practice. I try to obviously travel with them, see them at the games and throughout the week. Did it taper off at the end? My travel schedule changed a little bit, Sundays through Tuesdays. So it might have a little bit, but tried to maintain that communication.
Over here. Obviously, super busy schedule for you with a lot of committees that you're on. Why did you not reach out to Mark immediately after the Civil War just to kind of let him know where you stood before he went on the recruiting trail?
Yeah, I wanted to get some distance away from the emotion of the result of the game, and the football team had a full Sunday morning. They had a football team banquet, so my intent was to get away from the emotion, to be able to reflect myself, let them get through their team banquet, close up the season, and then have an opportunity to talk with Mark. I mean, this is an important decision. Again, Mark's a class guy, a great guy, and I wanted to be very deliberate in my process, in my review, to make sure we were making the right decision.
You're right, back row.
When did you make this decision? Was it something that happened today, or was this, the final decision?
Again, when the season ended on Saturday, I wanted to be able to reflect, put some distance away from the result of the last game, and then really go through a thorough process in my mind. So, the decision was made today, and I communicated it with Mark tonight.
That's kind of piggybacking off of that. But when you did leave on Sunday, did you have any intent? Did you know at that point that this was the direction you were going to head in and changing leadership? Or did you think that when you got back to Eugene, you would be able to give Mark another year?
And I was still processing all that. Obviously, had a long flight to think about it, had some time over the next couple of days, which was the intent to really reflect on the full 4 years. Again, there's a lot of emotion around a 4-8 season. There's a lot of emotion around the second half of the last game of the year, and really wanted to be able to put some distance from that emotion and really give some thought to the 4 years, to the full body of work, and I was able to do that.
Rob, what are some of the criteria you're looking for the next coach? Do they have to have head coaching experience? Do they have to be at a certain level? What are kind of your parameters?
Well, similar to we do in all of our coaching searches, we're going to have, we're going to look far and wide, so it'll be a broad, diverse pool of candidates. We want somebody who embraces, student-athlete experience, who understands the high expectations at the University of Oregon, who understands our community, and really, really wants to be here.
Yeah, did you consult Phil Knight about your decision, or how much of a role did he play?
I talked to a lot of people on a number of issues. Obviously, Phil is very close to our program, very passionate, and I communicate with him regularly. But I communicate with a lot of people, a lot of leaders, a lot of folks that care deeply about our program, a lot of industry leaders. When you're making this is an important decision and one that impacts a lot of lives. So I talk to a lot of people.
There's been some rumors out there about different potential head coaches who may come here. Do you care if they're at a Power 5 level as a head coach right now? Take PJ Fleck, for example, at Western Michigan, who's a candidate that many people are considering. Could be a good fit for this job, but is not a head coach at a Power 5 level.
Again, our pool will be broad, diverse. Obviously, I'm not going to address specific candidates, but we'll look far and wide. We'll take a deep dive. This is the first time something like this has happened in this program in decades. So, we're going to work efficiently. We're going to be extremely thorough and find the right person to lead Oregon football.
Yes. I think would you agree that would be a fair assessment? Because you mentioned trajectory. I think a lot of fans would think that next year the Ducks would actually improve. So are you saying the trajectory issue is basically that you don't think they can get to the elite level with the way they're going? Because wouldn't you agree that there's a good chance that the Ducks would have a winning record next year with the youth and everything coming back?
Again, I'm not into projecting or predicting. Over the last couple of days, I've had a chance to reflect, think about the 4 years, and make the decision.
All right, we will go to the phones. If there's anybody on the phone that has a question?
I do.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I'll ask a question. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Hi, Rob. Jason from the Portland Tribune. Oregon, obviously under Chip and Mark, made great impact with their tempo, their speed, their flash, their bend don't break defense, which sort of fell down in the last 4 years defense. Are you going to be looking for any sort of a coach who is a defensive-minded coach and perhaps plays a little bit different way than what they've been playing offensively? Do you sort of have something in mind about the sort of coach you want?
Not from a football philosophical standpoint. No. Again, it'll be broad. It'll be a diverse pool. And no, we're not going in with some specific parameters on which side of the ball their experience is on. No.
Go back to the phone for any other questions.
How much
does coaching experience matter to you at a head coaching level?
Obviously, if you have success as a head coach, that's one parameter. Again, that doesn't mean we wouldn't be open to coordinators or others. But obviously, proven track record of success is one factor.
For those on the phone, if you could identify yourself before you ask the question, please.
Dwight, I think you had a question in there.
I do. Thank you. Dwight James, CSN. Rob, when you make a move like this, I think a question that you must have to ask yourself is, I'm letting somebody go. You have to be sure in your mind, I would assume, that you can find someone better. What leads you to believe that there's somebody out there better than the guy that you just let go?
Well, I think University of Oregon is a great football program. I think it's going to be attractive to a lot of candidates, and I'm confident in, as I mentioned in my opening statement, I'm confident in the administrative staff that we have and the facilities that we have. We compete in a great league. This is a highly desirable job. I'm confident that we're going to have a lot of interest.
Hey, Rob, this is Tyson Alger. You guys had to have known the attention that Mark's press conference on Sunday was going to get. Was there any thought that went into maybe putting out a statement before he went out there?
Obviously, I intended to make a statement on Sunday, but again, that was a pre-scheduled press conference, and we knew we had the banquet right after. So, my intent again was to get some time away from the emotion of the last game result, and to be very thorough, deliberate, and thoughtful in the process.
Rob, it's Andrew Grice from Oregonian. Do you anticipate asking the new head coach to retain any particular assistants, or will you give that new coach full authority to keep whomever he wants?
It'll be the head coach's decision on the staffing.
Rob, this is Jen Burley from the Oregonian. Two-part question. First, in your mind, what changed with Mark since giving him that contract extension less than 2 years ago? And second part, have you already started reaching out to other coaches?
First part, again, it's never one thing, right? I mean, everybody wants to try to pinpoint to one thing that changes, but clearly over the last couple of years, and particularly this year, we weren't as competitive as we needed to be in a number of games, and that's not the only thing. Then you start to look at the totality of the program, and again, I think there was a shift in culture, and culture's been the winning edge here, and we need to get that edge back. And the second piece is no. This was step one. Step two will be turning to the search, which as soon as we're done here, that's where my focus will be.
Any other questions on the phone?
Yeah, Dwight James, I have another one, Rob. This is a public institution, and I know there's going to be questions. I'm going to be asked where the money came from. Where is this money going to come from to pay the bill for this? It's obviously going to be, it's been estimated $15 to $16 million. How are you going to finance that?
Right. Great question. Fair question. Obviously, the sum is mitigated, so we won't know the exact amount. It's payable over a number of years. But as we sit here today, we're looking at a number of options. One is there's a $6.5 million licensing carry forward from University Licensing, much which was earned through the success of the licensing revenues tied to athletic success. Obviously, we'll have a significant savings in the fact that we won't be paying bowl bonuses this year. We had budgeted for that. Over the last several weeks, we've frozen 4 administrative positions, so we'll be looking at some resource allocation, and then we'll see what other revenue opportunities exist for us to make this work. But again, this isn't payable in a lump sum. It's payable over a number of years, and the contracts do require mitigation. So we don't know what the exact amount will be.
Hey, Rob, this is Aaron Fetches with CSN. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Okay, thanks. You mentioned the success that Helfrich has had, and then obviously went downhill, but you also talked about the fact that the new coach is going to maybe change the assistants. You have a lot of coaches who have been here forever for a lot of success at Oregon. Are you now saying then that the program is above the people that helped build it, and that now it has to move forward to find someone else because you don't believe that these guys can get it back to where it's been, even though they were a part of building it several different times?
No, I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that we're very grateful for all that's been done here over a long period of time, and we've just reached a point where we need a change of direction. That's simply it.
Hey, Rob, Warren Williamson, Oregon Duck Football News. I joined a little bit late. Maybe you addressed this already. What was Coach Helfrich's pitch to you to be retained as head football coach?
I don't want to get into the specifics of our conversation today, other than to say, Mark is a class guy. It was a difficult conversation, but in the end, it was very, very professional, and I'm appreciative of the 8 years that he's provided to the University of Oregon.
We'll take one more question from the phone, and maybe come back to you, and then we got a lot of impatient people in the room.
One more question. Rob, this is Jason at the Tribune. Was it more so the on-field play or the culture, or was it a combination? I mean, at the end of the day, he went 4-8, but there seemed to be a lot of issues with the program, chemistry in the locker room, so forth, and on field the defense was so bad. What did you look at in particular?
Yeah, again, I'm being repetitive here, but you don't apply percentages to these things, and it's never just one thing. Throughout the year, you just assess the entire program. And again, I took the last couple of days to reflect back on everything, and came to the conclusion that we need a change in direction.
You say there.
One more question from the phone, Dave. Dwight James again, Rob. Are you going to make this search by yourself? Have you hired a search firm, as has been reported? How are you going to do this? Help in the past from some major alums or major boosters I know take place this time?
A couple of things. Obviously, I'll lead the search. Staff will assist. We will work with Parker Executive Search Firm in the search. Obviously, those search firms can assist with a number of logistics that are required in this type of search. So we will work with them.
You said that there's not a specific timetable right now to find a new head coach, but with valuable recruiting time, is there an ideal date of when you like to have a new staff in place?
No, there's not an ideal date. Obviously, as I mentioned, we'll be very thorough. We'll be efficient, but it's really about getting it right. And when we hire the right person, with all the other things that I mentioned, this is an attractive place for recruits.
Rob, two parts. Why did you decline any interview requests over the last couple of months, and where did your conversation with Mark take place today?
Again, I wanted, when I addressed it in the middle of the year, I didn't want to do a weekly update on where we were. At that time, I said I'd wait till the end of the year. I wanted to be patient, wanted to assess, even took a couple of extra days to be able to step back, reflect, again, try to, what happens in the season is you get these emotional roller coasters that happen. What happens on Saturday, there's a lot of emotion on Sunday, Monday, and then it changes throughout the week. And I wanted to be able to allow the full season to happen, sit down, reflect, be thorough and thoughtful, and make a decision. And where we met? My office.
Two clarifications. Want to make sure we get this right. Your mind was made up before you met with Mark, so it wasn't really a conversation so much as you just informing him of your decision?
Well, yes.
Okay. And second one, did you attend the football banquet Sunday morning?
I did not.
Do you typically?
I have in the past, yes.
Rob, there's been a great deal of continuity with this job over the years. It's basically been in the same coaching tree since Rich Brooks. You mentioned the need for a new direction. Would you anticipate that the next coach comes from outside that coaching tree that has been here?
obviously that coaching tree has a lot of branches, so it doesn't necessarily have to, but I would anticipate that it won't come from within the staff, if that's what you're asking. I'm not sure I understand the question. I would anticipate that it will not come within the staff, but there's a lot of branches to the history of that staff, so it could come from a branch.
Rob, you mentioned distancing yourself emotionally from the Civil War. You also said you don't like to play the hypothetical game, but how much did a loss in the Civil War impact your decision?
Again, I've said all along, and I've been very consistent, that I was going to wait till the full season was in. And when that was done, it was 4-8, and I took the time to reflect and think about it.
NFL season still going on, and then bowl games as well. Do you anticipate the coach that you hire finishes out his current job, or do you want him to come right away and start working here?
Our goal, recruiting is important. Our goal is to find the person to get here, put together his staff, and get on the recruiting trail, and make sure that we don't lose much.
Anybody else? Scott, we'll go here. Or here first. Right, Mike there first.
Hey, Rob. You make this decision. Did having a coach that hasn't been fired here since 1977 have any weight on your decision, or was this just solely, based on this year and on the other factors that you've talked about?
Yeah, it weighed heavily on the factors that I've already talked about. But sure, over the last couple of days when you're thinking about it, this system that's in place right now has been here, 8 years. And absolutely, that's part of the calculation when you're trying to make this decision. There's been a formula that had worked, and so that's certainly a part of the process of review.
Rob, you mentioned you look at the totality of the program when you made this decision. A lot of reports and talk out there about potential of loss of season ticket holders and big-time donations coming to the program had you retained Coach Helfrich. How much of that went into maybe offsetting what the cost would be to get rid of Coach Helfrich?
Yeah, this wasn't an exercise in a financial formula. Obviously, we had to consider, what the buyouts would be, and that was part of it. But the factor of future season tickets did not weigh in on this decision.
We'll go Matt, and then take one more.
Can you expand on the comment you made of a change in culture? What does that mean?
Well, one of the things that was a real edge for us was the attention to detail, making adding up all the little things that resulted. We didn't always line up with the best talent, but all the little things that added up, produced a lot of victories here, and I think that's might have been some of the issue that resulted in the record this year. Well, both.
How do you foresee this impacting commitments who thought they were going to have Mark as a head coach and recruits in the future?
Yeah, I don't know. Obviously, again, we'll work as fast as we can to get our new head coach, and all the things that would attract people to here are still here. Great facilities, great staff, great student athlete experience, and once we get the new leader in place, again, the intent is that they'll hit the ground running.
All right. Thank you, Rob. Just a housekeeping item. We will have some players available tomorrow. You'll look for some information from Dave. He will send that information out as soon as we have the details worked out.
Great. Thank you. Sorry again for such short notice.